Honda Pilot Overland, Aaron here. Today we're going to investigate a clicking that is developed on the rear driver's side wheel. As we drive, it clicks, and if we accelerate, the clicking stops. If we decelerate, the clicking gets worse. I'm thinking it's the drive axle, the CV axle in the back here. Both my rear axles are original axles with 255,000 miles on them, so they've lasted pretty darn well. Today I'm going to replace the rear axle with a Napa axle. I've tried a number of different third-party axles, and I am currently running one Napa axle in the front, and so far it's been holding in there pretty well. It's really appealing to go with axles like Napa's axle because it has a lifetime warranty, so once I invest the $150-ish into it, if it breaks again in the future, I just have to take the part off and work with the store to get another one, which is really appealing to me because you can kind of dump a lot of money into axles on these vehicles. So along the way, you'll probably get a little bit of tips for how to assemble the rear end lift on a Pilot. I'll also get to show you the air coils, and we'll kind of see how. I haven't actually disassembled or replaced the axle in the rear yet on a Pilot, so we'll kind of see where this takes us. It is a little bit rainy today, so I'm going to put out my awning. I guess I'm fortunate that the awning is on the correct side for this repair. We're hoping to get this repair done for a fishing trip tomorrow. Here locally, the shad are running in the canal, so hopefully I can get this repair done and tow the boat tomorrow. Alright, now we can get the jack over here. The only weird thing about this noise in the rear has me a little concerned is that I've already lifted it up the vehicle once and spun the wheels, and I can't hear anything or feel anything odd when I just spin them by hand. So we'll have to see if there's any play in the axle when I get it out. I've never had a rear axle go bad before too, so it's possible they just fail in a slightly different way than the front. Don't feel any play. The rotor seems like it's rubbing here a little bit, but that wouldn't make a clunking noise. So let's take this wheel off and see what we can see underneath. Alright, got all the lugs off. So if you guys watched our last off-roading video with the Xterra, you may have noticed that the strap did get wrapped around this side of the vehicle a little bit when I was backing up. So a long time ago, I actually popped my my air spring when I was cutting the Swaybar right here. By the way, Swaybars are incredibly hard to cut, just so you know. Anyways, I've been running the air spring with a tire plug in it ever since. It leaks a little bit more. It leaks a little bit, but nothing I can't keep up with. What I plan on doing at this point is just purchasing another set of these same air springs and replacing this one. That'll give me a spare one to carry in the car, which would probably be good for on different off-road trips. But yeah, at full droop here, you can kind of see the suspension angles are... Man, I am concerned by the fact that there's no play in this axle that I can feel. I don't see anything visually wrong I'm just confused as to what could be clunking so much. This wheel actually was really hard to get balanced, and one of the techs was able to stack this weight right here. If you're not careful, it bumps the caliper, so it could make a clunking noise, but that wouldn't explain why we hear it when we're accelerating, or don't hear it when we're accelerating and do hear it when we're decelerating though. So I'm gonna clean this area up a bit. I'm gonna spray it off and get rid of a bunch of the mud. So I'll be back. All right, so I got everything cleaned out here. We're gonna see if we can take off this axle nut. Start with. The new axle, of course, will come with a new one of these axle nuts. We got a 36 millimeter socket here. Alright, so on the front there's normally a spot right here in the rotor that I would stick a screwdriver in to stop it from rotating. So for this, I might need to stick the wheel on it to break this nut. Alright, let's give this another go. One more time with the impact gun here. Bingo. So I forget what the torque rating is on this impact gun. It's the Cobalt 24 volt, but it's definitely more powerful than the 750 foot-pound air impact gun I was using. But I guess it just needed the wheel down to have a little bit more solid wax on the nut there. Alright, we'll lift it back up and move on to the next. Having the right tool can really make the job easier. My next step was definitely going to be the breaker bar. Yeah, it looks like it's a 17 millimeter socket. Alright, got it this time. I don't want to take this slow and easy. I don't know how much this is holding up. Yeah. So it's looking like it just pulled forward a little bit. I need to get the jack underneath the bottom of it. That looked better. So this part that I'm taking out right now is the upper control arm, and it's one of the important adjustable parts that you need, in my opinion, to get the vehicle back in alignment after you lift it. Alright, now that I got this up, I'm going to go ahead and use my impact gun to get it out of here. So what I normally do, put the impact on it, get a wrench behind the head, So now I need to see how much wiggle I'm going to get out of this. Not a whole lot. Alright, so got the vehicle up on jack stands. I also noticed the other day that I do have a little bit of seepage right here where the drive shaft goes into the diff. At some point, if it leaks worse, might address it, but for right now, probably just won't. So we're going to try to get some kind of wedge or prying tool right up in here. That aluminum right there is pretty soft. I actually gouged it a little bit just there with that little bit of prying. I think I'm going to revert back to my other technique for pulling these axles. Everybody, or I don't know, it's a technique I developed, but it works pretty well for me. So basically I'm going to take a pair of pliers, slip the boot down off the top here. Got it. So just like that, you can take the boot and just kind of slide it down. Oop. All right, I'm gonna get my vice grips on it on the other side. All right, so a lot of slide hammers will come with this adapter piece right here that slides into a pair of vice grips, and I kind of just went name brand this time. But this tool has been really useful. Basically anything you can get in those jaws, you can pull on really hard with this slide hammer. So you just stick this part right here, twist it on. Now this is really useful on the front passenger side of the Pilot because there's not a great place to pry on the connection between the axle and the it's got this like extension coming off of the transmission, and so I kind of developed this technique. Clearly, you know, on the front I've been replacing a lot of axles, and so this technique allowed me to pull them out of the junkyard pretty darn quick. So I haven't done it on the back here before. We'll see if we have room to get the vice grip in here. That might be my problem right now. All right, got it hooked on again. Alright, it wasn't beautiful, but it definitely got it. So it looks like my next logical bolt to take out probably will be that shock right here. Might be the next easiest one to take out. To get a little bit more movement in here. Take something with some wood on it. Get it lined up on the bottom. Hit it off. Don't think that's given me as much wiggle room as I was hoping for.
Some give there. Oh, there goes my KYB shock here. Looks like it's holding in. Check my ball joint while I'm in here too. Alright, so we're going to take off the, or at least loosen, maybe just loosening that. Give me some more wiggle room. Let's try that out. Guess it's been too long since I worked on the lower suspension here because all these bolts are tight. All right, that looked like it gave me some wiggle, some more wiggle room. Not enough though. All right, we got it now. Pretty good. Well, I'm getting it apart. So, the way the differential is designed on this side, there's a set of splines that comes out this way. So, yep, no transmission or no differential fluid leaking out this time. All right, so we're ready to go pick up the Napa axle that I bought, and we'll put it on here and work to button this thing all back up. If the clunking still persists, it really might be something inside my rear differential. I've actually been keeping an eye out at the local junkyard, the LKQ here in Charleston, and I've been planning on buying another one of these as soon as I can find it. I'm pretty sure LKQ will only charge me like 80 bucks for it, and so yeah, I was planning on going there and picking out, or disassembling it and having a spare one in my garage. So if I have broken something inside here, then that would be probably my next step, is to try to find a rear differential at a salvage yard that I can take out of here, or take out of that vehicle. But no reason to fear the worst until we get the new part in, so I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so we got our Napa, what does it say, max drive axle here. Take a look at it. Make sure everything looks good about it. Alright, looks right at first glance. Now, the way I took that other axle out in pieces probably means I'm going to have a hard time getting this back in. So let's see what we can figure out here. And these always come with a new nut. It's very important to use a new nut. Alright, so the first step is to get the inside in and make sure
You kind of smash it in with enough force to get the C-clip to grab. Let's do that to start with. So I felt it kind of slip over. And in. It felt right. So I'm pulling on it now, make sure it's in there pretty good. It feels like it is. Now we have to get these splines down into the front here. Definitely going to want to spray that out. Probably should have looked at that before I did all this. Alright, so I got it sprayed out in there. That's probably where a lot of my grinding was coming from. Whenever, on the last video, whenever I would get out of mud hole, there was a lot of grinding noise from sand and grit getting into somewhere. I think it might have been right there. Alright, so now we're going to see if we can get these splines into this knuckle. So far, it's not feeling like it's going to make it just as is. And if you look, it looks like it's this cable right here that's going to kind of limit us right now. So I think I'm going to go on the side here and undo. Alright, just a good old 10mm socket. This is the anti-lock brake cable. There it goes to the sensor for the ABS. So if you have if your ABS light is stuck on, there's a good chance that one of these cables has gotten sheared or damaged. Alright, just about got it. And then once we get this off, we can just kind of move it up and over. We might be able to pry that knuckle away far enough to get that CV in there. Alright. So close. Alright, I don't see anything else really binding, so I think I'm just going to try to give it a bit of muscle here. And got it. Now we'll get it. Get this lined and pushed back up. Alright, that's looking good. I think I'm going to start with the lower control arm bolt here. When you're installing the lift, that's one of the harder bolts to kind of line up and get in. Looks like we're getting lucky here, and then it's probably just going to go right in for us. We'll just get that most of the way, but keep it kind of loose. I have a feeling this top control arm is going to be my hardest one to get back in, so let's try to do it next. Jack up on this a little bit more, see if that gets me closer. I think we're a little closer. I think it's this one. Use the socket technique here, or the ratchet again. So, got that one most of the way in. Let's move on to the shock next.
top kind of up and in. Get the bottom lined up a little bit. Looks like I need to let some weight off this jack real quick. That's one of the tricks to getting it back together, is manipulating this lower control arm height to get things at the height it wants to be. Alright, so once we get that back on, we'll give it a couple love taps. Trying not to hit the strut itself. And then you can kind of stick a piece of wood or something a little softer up against it. Hammer it in all the way. It's looking good. Now let's look at the top here. Real close. On this one. We got that. Alright, that's wonderful. So, I was afraid that was going to happen. On the inside here, there's a nut that's welded to the body, and of course the nut came off, or the weld broke. This has happened a couple of times to me working on this Pilot, and I've got a little stick welder. At some point, I'll probably get up in there and weld it again, but for right now, I'm just going to try to get a wrench on it. Alright, something went pretty terribly wrong there. So you can see the 3 welds that broke. But yeah, I think we stripped the inside of this nut out. It was not tightening up. Alright, so I'm back from the parts store, and I got some new grade 8 bolts for this shock. I noticed I had it in there upside down too, so that wasn't ideal at all. So let me get this back in here. Let's button her up. There we go. Things never go exactly according to plan, so just be ready when you're working on vehicles. Always thread the nuts on as far as you can by hand first before you get the impact on it, because you definitely don't want to cross thread it with that. Alright, everything's starting to get together. I need to tighten this control arm up and this lower control arm. Let's go ahead and fasten this back up. Alright, so I'm going to put some pressure with the jack, kind of raise this up before I tighten up the different connections. Like I said, you want them to be tightened up when it's as close to sitting normal as it can be. All right. So that's everything buttoned back up that we took apart to get the axle out. Nice and gritty back behind there, behind that back plate. All right, where'd that? All right, so I'm gonna put this nut on, and I'm gonna give it a bit of a button up with this, and then we'll put the tire on and we'll let it back down on the ground and we'll actually torque it. It's pretty important that you torque these axle nuts, and then eventually we'll hammer back down the retainer portion of it right here. Alright, so I got my torque wrench here, and we're going to set it to be to 180 foot-pounds. Make sure that this axle nut's got the appropriate tightness, torque. Alright, that's 180. So the impact gun already got it to the appropriate tightness. Could be over torqued, but that's a pretty big nut. I'd be pretty surprised if we sheared that thing off. All right. So at this point, I'm just gonna use my tie iron to finish tightening these. Even after you hit them with an impact gun, you should always go back by hand and just make sure they're tight. Alright, I'm going to clean up a bit, and now it's time for the moment of truth. I got to get the other jack stand down and take it for a little test drive, see if this axle replacement fixes my ticking noise. Alright, the kids are going to be stoked. So far the test drive is going great. We have gotten rid of that rear end clunking sound as we drove. So replacing the rear axle did the trick, and we can go shad fishing tomorrow. Can't wait to break the news to the kids. And I think we might take you along on that adventure tomorrow too. So let me know down below if you guys have any questions about replacing axles on these vehicles. I'm not sure how helpful this experience will be for you guys, but again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know, and we'll catch you on the next adventure. Over and out.